You're listening to 89.1 WIDRFM. This is WIDRTales featuring Conray's Juju in Midyard, Zeroic Beginnings. Scribe's note: this tale was compiled by the Grand Historian Scribe through various found accounts, journals, and notes for the disbursement to inter- and outer-dimensional realms through the Artemis Academy's Share Act. All audio was translated to best fit the listener's mother tongue to the best of the scribe's ability. Chapter 4. Feeling Green. Romero groggily yawned as he left his room, stretching in his robes outward as if he was about to fold himself like a sheet. He was wearing a pointed bed cap that he quickly pocketed and swapped it for his crumpled chef's hat. He took two ends of his hat's bottom and, with a sudden motion, he flicked it outward to puff it back out. He struck a pose in confidence, but it was only for himself, since the halls were empty. The various rooms assuredly housed the veteran dwarves who battled with their bottles of last night. Still recovering, Romero knocked on Bimple's door. "Hey, kid, you awake?" All Romero could hear was a groan, but it didn't sound like one of grog. Moreover, it was one of pain. "Kid?" Romero was a bit worried now. But Bimple's door soon opened. Out stepped a bed-headed boy whose face was crinkled as he held a hand over his stomach. I'm not feeling so good, Romero." "Yeah, I can tell. You look like you've been spliced with an orc." "What's the matter? You got a stomach bug?" A long drug-out "Hungry" was all he could mutter. Romero chuckled. "Oh, you're just hungry? Well, come on. Beth should be serving breakfast by now." As the two made their way back to the bar and tables, it was quite a sight to see the place when it wasn't filled to the brim by drunkards. The morning light was shining through the windows and causing a nice golden glow to overtake the space. There were a few morning-goers here enjoying some warm, caffeinated drinks, small pastries, and other bread-based delicacies, and more. Well, not really more. That was about it. Romero sat down at the bar, taking one of the nearby napkins and folding each corner. Bimple sat next to him, still looking baked in pain. "The usual?" Bethany said. "For me, yeah, but for the kid, how about we get him a farmer's special? Should be up his alley." "Sounds like a proper way to wake up," Bethany said, as she quickly poured a glass of juice and mug of coffee and slid both over to Bimple and Romero respectively. Romero took his mug and dabbed his fingers in the scalding hot drink. He winced, then took his fingers out and drew a circle on the napkin, as well as a symbol in the center that looked like a moon having relations with a fish. Bimble couldn't even think of drinking his juice first. He needed food. But soon Bethany was quick at work in the kitchen. She had an incredible swiftness to her, if the other moments of her serving drinks wasn't evidence enough. She was cracking eggs of various birds into a hot pan. Then, in another, she was flipping pancakes. In a third, she was frying meat. There was broiling, braising, glazing, blanching, and searing. For a moment, I almost forgot about your cooking skills. For a second, I thought my professor was here giving me a lesson, Romero said, giving praise to Bethany. "You're still the sweet talker you always were, Romero. As if you could forget any of this. You're a riot." "Food," Bimble cried out. "Good things come from those who wait, small fry," Bethany said as she began to plate the various breakfast foods for the two boys. Similar, the motion from before, she slid two large plates over. One was, "Thanks," Bimple yelled out in a muffle as he began stuffing his gullet the instant the plates were pushed over. No time to enjoy the fine, artisanal food arrangement on the plate. Bethany didn't mind, though. He certainly seemed happy. Romero sprinkled a packet of sugar around the edges of his mug before drinking and giving Bethany an improving wink. I'll get you boys something with my new gadget while you're here. You can be the first to try it. Bethany grabbed the object Romero had given her just last night. She took a sharp blade out from the wall and began slashing at a body of bread. She swished out a few slices before taking the metallurgic armored device and stuffing it with the breading. Soon it came alive. The heart of it, that certainly came from some arcane beast, was now glowing red in power and heat. The low glow from the red was revealing a few of its innards, coiling metal, a cage of black soot, and a multitude of crumbly remains from the victims that were all once stuffed inside. Then the innards lunged, expelling the bread as if the machine ridiculed it, hated it. Bimple took in a sharp breath at the display and instinctually kept his head low. Bethany soon caught the slices in the air on 2 plates. They were lightly glazed now in a golden yellow crust. A few black burns had formed on the bread like scars from toying with the inside of the metal beast. Bethany took another blade and hastily spread a red, bloody jam on each slice. She slid the food over to the 2 adventurers. "Toast with jam. Let me know how it is," she said plainly with a smile. Romero held the toast up to his mouth, a single sniff first to absorb the freshness of the berry jam. He took a bite and his eyes grew. The crunch, the tang. It was simple, yet so delightful. He gave the universal sign of approval. A single gestural sign that transcends all cultures, ages, classes, and species alike. The raised thumb. Romero looked over at Bimple's jam-smeared smile. 2 raised thumbs. The 2 were now making their way up to a large grassy knoll. They were outside the city and traveling to their next location, the center of their quest. They had been walking for a miniature eon's worth of time, with the soles of their feet surely housing civilizations that have come and gone by now. Romero wiped a bit of sweat off his brow before speaking to Bimple. "If your barfly snooping on that unconscious dwarf was correct, which is the best source for information, mind you, then the site of our quest should just be right around..." "Oh." Romero was caught by surprise. "Oh, well, you can't miss that now, can you?" Bimple and Romero were taken aback by the sheer size of the place that appeared in their vision over the knoll. "Pardon us, good sir, we're looking in awe." "Eh?" said the knoll in front of them with a turn of his head. "Oh, no problem." The building was formed with expertly crafted masonry, but painted a rather sickly yellow. It's an insulting and blasphemous as someone painting a beautifully built temple with polka dots or leopard print. No matter the paint. The size was something that seemed improbable, yet existed in front of their eyes. The imaginable concept of a 100-story building was now tangibly imaginable. The reality of this realty, if it wasn't strange enough, was overshadowed by a grand beast, a fowl of gigantic proportions. Honk! Honk! It was nature's terrorist, the goose, and a giant one at that. It was nesting on the top of the rightmost building that was connected to the skyscraping, maximalist main tower. As it sat, the beast's long neck could reach the top if it desired. An illuminated sign flashed as some clouds flew by the building. Green's Golden Goose Casino and Resort. As the 2 made their way forward, they came to a dual pair of doors, with an undead greeter standing between them. He looked to be of a semi-fleshy sort, full of rot and maggots festering around what green flesh still laid on his body. It had quite a contrast with the red velvety suit and fake yet finely pruned, slick-backed hair on the top of his cranium. Romero was the first to speak as Bimple shuddered. "Hello there, my tuxtaposed friend. Are me and my little buddy good to enter the casino?
Ah, welcome. Of course you may enter.
And no, we don't have any earplugs. Maybe a few ear slugs, but earplugs, Romero said with a tilt, unsure of what the worker was referencing. Don't worry. In you go, in you go. The manager is waiting. The rat welcomer promptly opened up a door for the two. A wall of foul smell hit them worse than anything this undead fellow smelled like. Romero gagged, while Bimple really wasn't too bothered by it, reminding him of his farmland home of which he was beginning to miss. The casino was packed to the brim with ogres, orcs, goblins, and trolls, with a few other species here and there, including a levitating bovine with a crown. Not even a minute after the two stepped inside, every patron stopped what they were doing and leered towards them. It was silent. An extremely sharp-dressed goblin then descended a flight of stairs. A rhythmic clack of her heeled shoes rang out through the casino. She began to speak in a slight tune. A gold tag on her jacket read, Manager Maestro. Well, 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 she said. And suddenly, as if on cue, the lights of the casino blasted a bright spotlight on the goblin as the rest of the casino fell dark. An orc started to beat on the belly of an ogre. Ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. And Maestro began to sing. Welcome, step inside to a world so grand at Green's Casino, where dreams expand from far and near. Heed the call, adventure awaits, come one, come all. Oh, and welcome the glittering delight, where fortune rise in the neon light. Feel the thrill in the evening air. At Green's Casino, you're already there. With gentle folk, with cards in hand, let the games begin. It's a wondrous land, and take a chance on the spinning wheel, where fortunes twirl and emotions feel. Place your bets, let your heart race in this realm of chance. Let your dreams embrace and whispered secrets, playful glee. At Green's Casino, try and you'll see. Oh, and welcome to the glittering delight, where fortunes rise in the neon light. Feel the thrill in the evening air. At Green's Casino, you're already there. Amidst the laughter, the music's call, you'll find a magic that touches all. From slot machine songs to sips so sweet. At Green's Casino, the night's a treat. Then raise your glass, join the cheer. Friends and strangers gather near, singing songs with a mischievous grin. The revelry starts as the night sets in. Place your bets, let your heart race. In the realm of chance, let the dreams embrace. Whispered secrets, playful glee. At Green's Casino, come and be free. Oh, welcome to the glittering delight, where fortunes rise in the neon light. Feel the thrill in the evening air. At Green's Casino, you're already here. Welcome. The maestro ended by sliding on their knees across the polished floor. They breathe heavy in quick breaths as their arms extend, sweat caking their face and music coming to an end. When the musical number was done, the casino was soon bustling again as the manager stood up. She loomed over them with a devilishly toothy grin. Well, not necessarily loomed over, more like stared up at them due to being vertically challenged. She held her presence, however, reeking of managerial power and dirty socks. Since it's your first time here, I offer you this. Here you go, my boys. Maestro said with a wink as she offered them each a small black paper card that read, "One free drink on the house," in incandescent lime green text. "Oh, thanks, ma'am. My little buddy here will have to suffice with aqua on the rocks, but I will certainly appreciate my drink," Romero said as he put his arm around Bimple, the supposed little buddy. I don't know if I want to try any of those fancy elf drinks like aqua or whatever you called it," said Bimple. "Oh, nonsense. If you please, madam, I'll see to it that these cards are put to good use." And off the two went to lose all the managerial attention. It wasn't much of a challenge, with Maestro soon being distracted by an ogre very physically shaking a slot machine up and down, most likely angered by only hitting 2 red fruits instead of the delighted 3. Romero, aren't we supposed to be getting some fancy smancy drinks?" "No," Romero said in a hushed yet exasperated tone as they speed walked through the casino. "The quest is, we steal the Juju artifact before the thief does. Don't you recall from the bar? We just have to find it oh my." Romero looked out from the top of the staircase that the two had arrived at. At the end of the room laid a clay doll, sitting directly on a viney pedestal. This pedestal was itself in its own room, with a giant glass wall blocking it from any patrons, but still being clearly shown off to them. Bimple, not too caught up with the legendary rarity of even being able to see a Juju artifact in person, rather looked down at the mass of people running around on the floor of this part of the casino. There were diverse races and species present, but they all dressed and looked the same. They had button-up, sweaty dress shirts, some fitting, some a bit too loose, and some too tight, but it's what they had to work with in the morning since their regular shirts weren't put in the wash the night before, but that may have been caused by some laziness or other internal or external factors that honestly probably plagued a lot of society at the time. Or maybe it was just a new style. But beyond the tailored textiles was a glowing crystal that they had held up to their ears and talked into, while then yelling arcane phrases at others on the floor. Some even holding up 2, 3, 4 crystals and interchanging them sporadically. Bimble tried to listen in to hear what they were saying.
"My client wants a buy of 50 on ADL for 515.
2, 3, 5. Me wants the whole party shorted.
Yous can't be serious. I placed a market order for that whore's dung yesterday. What do you mean the condition changed based on retail? Retail doesn't even know yet."
Look, I'm telling you, this new kid, PD, real great stuff. He hasn't even hit the news yet. We get in now, this thing is going to the stars. Have you heard about non-fungible omens? It completely takes the mushrooms out of the equation, using a sock chain that is verified by all sock chain users. Out of all things beyond the farm, the phrases these smelly-dressed people used was certainly the most esoteric to Bimple. Don't fret, Bimple. Even to a wizard like me, these guys are beyond. Not in power, but in outlandish language, said Romero as he looked down at the pit of people. But surely you must have got some idea what they're doing. I mean, I know the basics. Tried to do a little at home using a crystal a few times, but just ended up losing a not so small, but not so devastating amount of gold. Romero scratched his chef-hatted head for a moment before continuing. They're basically betting on heroes. They get calls from greed barons who have a whole lot of gold and want even more. Or some just use their own gold down there. But you see that doll over there? Never seen it in person before, but it transforms into an image of the best hero in all of Midyard, whatever that means. These guys down there are just betting on who it will transform into, how long, when, yada yada. Even got some betting on and against new heroes coming up, old heroes falling off, and everywhere in between and outside of that. Wouldn't there be one strongest hero above them all? Why is it always changing? Well, it'd be like that if it wasn't for the fall of the great warrior named Dogface. He was the last bearer of the doll, if I remember my Juju history classes correctly. And he was also the best hero at the time. Wasn't of much use to him, I'd think, but if someone had that doll and wasn't a hero, they would know exactly what their biggest threat would be like at any time. What a power that could be. As the two pondered over the fantastically foreign betting over a magical artifact, the lights went out and the crowd went silent. By the delights, that blasted thief must have, Romero began to say before being cut off by a distant, loud, and familiar tune. Welcome! Step inside to a world so grand at Green's Casino. Oh, the delights must be smiling on us after all, Bimple. Haha. While they're distracted in their song, they won't possibly realize the doll is gone before the second verse. Oh, well, we should let them know to stay alert then, right? Romero shook his head. Your innocence is intoxicating. Once Bimple and Romero had navigated through a few back halls only open to staff of the casino, they finally arrived just before the door leading to the room of the Juju figure. However, there were two guards at the door, one an ogre bearing 2 heads and 3 arms, and the other a rather creepily tall goblin with spindly limbs. They seemed to be playing the card game Daily Dues and did not seem to see the duo peeking from behind a corner at them, nor Romero's comically tall hat. Can't you poof up some sort of beast to get these guys out of here? Bimple whispered. Pfft, Romero scoffed. You can't just go up to a chef and say, "Oh, educated and well-versed chef, can you please poof up a lasagna the size of a bridge? Pretty please? In the span of 30 seconds or it's free?" It takes a lot of effort for something like that, let alone a beast. No, what we need is... Hey, do you hear that? Romero said, trailing off and hearing a distant yet ever-increasing sound, sort of like an... That can't be good, said Romero. Protect me, child, he pled as he shielded his head. A black form then burst through the vents, causing Romero and Bimple to collapse under its weight. It was heavy. It smelled of alcohol, oil, and dirt. Mr. Romero, the short guy from earlier landed on my head, complained Bimple as a dwarf's boot lay on his face. Oh, why? Romero pled once more, up at the supposedly smiling delights. A body of a leather-clad, gimpish dwarf was currently suppressing him as he continued looking finished with the Midyard's nonsense. Hey, what's the commotion over there? They heard the guard ogre yell in a voice that seemed to be talking over itself. Oh, great. You two peel-brains have ruined my plan. First the drinks, now this. Have you no shame, lads? You're ruining my score. This is a rag-dag McTagbad heist. Not yours, spoke the dwarf as he gave no effort to move. Will you get off of us? Romero yelled as he pushed the dwarf off. Help us please, Mr. Dadbad, Bimble said to the dwarf with puppy dog eyes and boot prints still lingering on his face. But that just sent the dwarf into hysteria. No. Ragdag McTagbad then got up off the floor and took out a glowing rock to draw a circle. The circle flickered in the center with light before opening up to the area just outside of Green's. A portal! See you later, lads, Ragdag would say with a wink before walking through the portal as it closed swiftly behind him. Romero would sigh as the two guards were rapidly approaching. Quite the intelligent one, isn't he? Romero would quip before bringing Bimple up and pulling his arm as the two began to run down the hall, away from the Juju artifact. Stop! The slender goblin snaked out at them to no effect. Bimple, you remember what I said about the lasagna? Said Romero. I think so. said Bimple back. The culinary cultist would then turn around swiftly and pull out 2 spatulas from his sides, 1 for each hand. He pointed them at the 2 running guards, and they didn't stop. But Romero began to recant. Ziti, gemelli, assini di pepe, ravioli rigatoni, tortellini cavatappi. The spatulas then emitted an aura of red, white, and orange, his eyes soon doing the same as he focused. The guards soon trudged down to more of a jog as their noses had a hint of worry, as a smell of assorted herbs and spices hit them like a wall. Romero continued, paprika, mozzarella, parsley, red pepper, marinara, lasagna. And with a shwoo, 2 infinitely long, large pans of lasagna began to fire out of the spatulas and fill the halls, hitting the 2 guards straight on, but also blocking the path back to the Juju doll. Ha, Romero, I knew you could do it. In 30 minutes or less, no less, said Bimple. What can I say? I'm a well-versed chef, he winked. Come on, let's get out of here before the trolls catch a whiff of the fresh lasagna. Fire. The floor of the casino laid uncharacteristically still as the bodies of orcs, trolls, goblins, and ogres lay dead and burnt on the ground as slot machines and tables still crackled from being scorched in flames. The glass wall of the room that housed the Juju doll was shattered, the doll no longer on its pedestal. A dark armored figure would maniacally laugh out as they lifted up the Juju doll, as it began transforming in their hand. Any part of their skin was obscured, but, more ominously, their head was cast in an infinite void of shadows and a pointed hood. Know thy enemy, and the world is yours. They continued as they stared at the now transforming doll. It flickered past a few well-known heroes at the time, but continued to transform. The last image seen from the doll is that of a rotund farm boy with a bowl cut. This has been Juju and Midyard by Con Ray. To be continued.